Welcome right back to our semifinal of our mid-season showdown here at Pokemon Labs and Psycho Turtle Collectibles. This is going to be very exciting. We have two high-ranked players. Both of them have punched their ticket to Worlds. We got Junxi, Zoo, and Giovanni Costa, two long-time players with two of the most meta-defining teams right now. You're going to see Junxi on the left with Amoonguss, Urshifu. This Urshifu is Rapid Strike, Porygon 2, Landorus Incarnate, Incineroar, and Golden Go. While Giovanni Costa on the right is going to be Golden Go, Incineroar, Ogerpon Wellspring, Flutter Mane, Urshifu Single Strike, and for a draft. So Gio's been playing this team for a long time. It's very well known, but it's very good because it's balanced. You look at that team, not only do you have the Fire Water Grass combo in Incineroar and Ogerpon, you have a potential for Trick Room, you have Urshifu with Focus Sash, Terra Stellar, you have Golden Go to go ahead and just Specs, Make It Rain, and just chip or knock out whatever you need. But Junxi's team has been seeing a lot of rise because Porygon 2 is super bulky, and people have realized that again. Not to mention that Terra Blast mechanic is so much fun because you get a download boost right away, and especially if it's special attack, it's going to be super useful. But Terra Blast, you get Stab on, and so you don't have to really worry about going for Tri-Attack. And if you Terra, it allows you to essentially play three moves. Your Stab Normal, your Ice Beam, which is super common, especially for flying types, and Landorus, and all of these Pokemon that Amoonguss that just kind of get chipped by ice. And you also have the ability to go Terra Poison and just start knocking things out with that. But it's just a really well-built team on both ends, and there's a reason they're in the top 4, and it's not just because of the team, it's because they are very logical, precise players, and you're going to see that in this match. They're some of the best for a reason. But we're going to get right into it. Both players have selected their matchups, and let's get going. It's an interesting lead here because Giovanni's team is relatively slow in comparison to kind of the standard. You do it for a draft for Trick Room, but it's tough when you're up against another slow team that also has fast options, as you see here with that Landorus and Amoonguss lead. Well, Giovanni going to go ahead and lead with Urshifu and Ogerpon Wellspring. Both of these Pokemon, Ogerpon's an interesting case. It has been running relatively fast recently. Usually enough investment to knock out the Landorus, which is why I think Junxi's in an interesting spot. Wouldn't be surprised if we just see a Terra Poison or Protect right off the bat. And the Urshifu is in a spot I wouldn't really want to be in. I would probably switch out into... I'd probably switch into Golden Go, because you know that this... there's a good chance that this Landorus is not going to target the Urshifu, and it is going to go straight up Terra Poison for Junxi. It's the right of go. You got it with Ogerpon. You really got to Terra Poison or switch, because otherwise it just Ivy Cudgels you and you're out. And there's a reason that most Ogerpons are investing in speed right now. It's specifically for Landorus, and that's only going to do half now thanks to that Terra. And the Sludge Bomb now with the boost is going to connect with Ogerpon and just one-hit KO it. Not great spot for Giovanni, because this... Yeah, you can knock out the opposing Landorus with the Wicked Blow, which is what's going to happen. But here's the thing: this Amoonguss has a thing called Spore. Now it is 2-on-1 essentially for at least a turn, and that is not good because this Urshifu is one of the big damage dealers for Giovanni's side. Incineroar is great support. Golden Go also probably the most offensive Pokemon remaining. You do have Flutter Mane, but it is booster energy, and if it's Golden Go and Golden Go, that is really good for Junxi, because we're going to see Incineroar actually, which is still fine. This Golden Go on Junxi's side is Metal Coat Nasty Plot, while Giovanni's is Choice Specs. The good news here is this Incineroar, it is Assault Vest, it is Terra Grass, so you could go for a potential anti-spore mechanic there, but I think with what you really want to do is just go ahead and Make It Rain and just kind of chip out the Urshifu. The hard part is both of these are weak to fire. The switch out into Urshifu, it's not a bad spot. It goes into Golden Go, so no Spore potential if the switch out was called, but it's basically forced Giovanni now to his last two Pokemon. And I think this Terra here on Incineroar is... It's smart because you have to avoid the Spore, but you do lose the Make It Rain resist, and that might be important, especially because Make It Rain's going first. It does 50%-ish. It's not great. It is Metal Coat, but it's not great onto Incineroar. It is going to go for the knockoff, gets rid of the Metal Coat, and just one-shots Golden Go. Was that a crit? Wow, that is a very attack-invested Incineroar. And if I'm not mistaken, so that's also a clue there. Pollen Puff, though, gonna connect with the Golden Go. I get it. You wanted to get rid of that the Urshifu. So here's the thing, Junxi's also got Incineroar, and this is where it's fun, because yeah, you can't really support right now, but this Golden Go on Geo's side is not in a spot where it really wants to be. Neither of these two are actually in an interesting position. This could go either way, because it's essentially a mirror match with the Incineroars, and that's very crucial, because the Amoonguss is weak to Flare Blitz, may go down. The item is Rocky Helmet, so it's going to damage the opposing Incineroar as well. The Golden Go, it's not actually in a great spot either. It can't really hit Incineroar for super effective damage at all, and as we saw, Incineroar can deal a lot of damage onto Geo's Golden Go. So I think the play right now is to get rid of the opposing Incineroar, especially because it is does not have Protect. And so yeah, the switch is smart, but I don't know. You're gonna get Intimidate, but it may allow Junxi to just get rid of his Urshifu right now. Or Amoonguss gonna Protect. That's quite a solid play. The question now becomes, which did this Incineroar target? I think Golden Go going for Trick, but it's going to Trick onto the Amoonguss. So it is going to Trick this next turn, and it's going to be able to Trick no matter what. Flare Blitz does about half onto the opposing Urshifu, so that's solid. You really want to rely on sleep turns this turn. I think if you are Junxi right now, you protect your... Amoonguss just protected, so it's an interesting one. I think you gotta Flare Blitz the Golden Go, though. That's the key. And you gotta hope for Urshifu. Well, you could also just go for the Urshifu. Oh, man. Urshifu's definitely staying asleep this turn. I think you actually just Flare Blitz Urshifu. It gets rid of it, for sure. If it switches into Incineroar, it gets rid of it. Golden Go really is not a huge threat. It's got Trick. It'll Trick Amoonguss. I think if that's your case, you just keep spamming Pollen Puff. There's the Intimidate. I do think right now... Yeah, I think right now, if you just keep clicking Pollen Puff and Flare Blitz if you're Junxi, you should be fine for the most part. Just keep healing your Incineroar and then getting Flare Blitzes out on Geo's Incineroar and Golden Go. Trick is actually going to connect with Incineroar. A little surprising there. It is choice specs, keep that in mind. But Incineroar, Golden Go now has a Citrus Berry, which is big. But I don't know. It's an interesting case there. It does get rid of the Golden Go. But the reason I'm not a fan of that position is because I think Flare Blitz is the move you really got to use for the rest of the game. While Pollen Puff right now, it is going to do really decent onto the opposing Incineroar. It does not get to a range where I think even after the minus of Intimidate, it will still get rid of it, but you do have Fake Out potential. I think right now you Pollen Puff your own Incineroar if you're Junxi and then go for a Flare Blitz onto either. You can either double Pollen Puff onto the Urshifu if you really want to. You can also redirect Urshifu's attacks when it wakes up. I believe it still has a single turn of sleep, so it may wake up. There's the Fake Out, yeah. The question is, do you Pollen... It's asleep now, so now this wake up potential is very real. But I think if you're Junxi, you just Pollen Puff your own Incineroar and heal it up, because it is going to be the key there. But no, Pollen Puff going onto the Urshifu does decent, actually. I think actually this is still a really good position for Junxi. I think you Rage Powder and go for the knockout onto Urshifu. There's not much that Geo's Incineroar can really do onto yours, so if you get rid of the Urshifu and you Rage Powder, like, your Amoonguss doesn't really need to do much at the moment. And then after that, you can just Flare Blitz and get rid of it. I think Junxi's in a slightly better position, but it still is not the end of the world, because a potential close combat, and Urshifu is going to stay asleep, but I was going to say close combat potential could still do a lot of damage onto Junxi's Incineroar. But I think that's just going to give the match to Junxi here, because that Flare Blitz, that's a very valuable piece of information we got to remember, though. That Junxi's Incineroar is faster than Geo's Incineroar. It could have been a speed type, but Incineroar's speed varies all over the place. There's a good chance that it's going to continuously be outspeeding Geo's Incineroar. And now at this point, it's pretty much game over. You just click Rage Powder and Flare Blitz, and that's going to give the game to Junxi. Very well played, and there's a forfeit from Giovanni. Very well played on both sides. I think there was some... That sleep onto the Urshifu turn 1 was super important. That lasted literally the entire game. We also saw that Golden Go for Trick. I think it was a little... It was a little bit of a risky play going on to the Incineroar Trick. Just because I think Amoonguss would have been crippled from it a bit more. But, you know, it was a good play regardless. And at this point, I think if you're Geo, you're like, okay, this is what I see how it worked. I see how Junxi plays. The Landorus Terra was very valuable, actually. Just being able to survive a hit, that alone allowed Amoonguss to basically do what it needed to do that entire match. I mean, other than that, it just chipped a little bit at a time. It was a sitting mushroom for a good chunk of time. Allowed Incineroar just kind of sweeping Golden Go to do some decent put offensive pressure on the field. And so I think if you're Junxi right now, you're thinking, it worked the first time, is it going to work again? There's like few things you can do. I really don't know what the best bet is here. There's so many options. Urshifu and Porygon, which were not brought in, still have potential. While if you're Geo, I think you're thinking, Golden Go really didn't do a ton. There's enough things that are resisted against it, enough threats. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Golden Go switch. But it's also, when you think about it, it's like, what do you want to really bring in? Friddraff it's a really solid choice to counter Amoonguss, but then, you know, you got your Incineroar, which is a huge play. You've got your Flutter Mane as well, which maybe is a play you want to make. Ogerpon obviously is a huge threat turn 1 just because you have Amoonguss. So maybe you switch out Ogerpon, but then that also opens up the Urshifu to do some stuff if you are Junxi. So you really got to watch out for that. There's just so many options on both sides. I wouldn't be surprised though if we see a exact mirror of what we saw in the last match. I just think those are the right calls, but switches are definitely valuable and valid choices. It's just, I think that the 4 that each Pokemon or each player brought in is still the right 4. We're going to see Golden Go and Ogerpon lead, a little different. Well, same lead as last time for Junxi. We did see Urshifu last time, and I think this is a much better position for Giovanni because you no longer have the Spore potential. But you do have to... You're threatened. It's an interesting spot because whatever's on the Golden Go slot can easily get an Earth Power thrown its way, and Golden Go's Terra is Steel, so it's just like gone. Ogerpon, I think right now you got to Terra and Earth Power the Golden Go. I don't know. Maybe that's the right play. Maybe it's not. But I think that's the play you want to make. I wouldn't also be surprised to see a Rage Powder so you can ensure that you get a Make It Rain. But there's so many different choices. Substitute's really not a bad play either. But I still think Make It Rain's going to get rid of you here. Question is, what is this Golden Go do, right? Is it going to Trick? Is it going to go Make It Rain? His choice back, so... So there's that Terrestrial to Poison, making sure that you survive the Ogerpon hit, because otherwise you would not, so you don't want that to happen. And it's just a really nice Terra all around. We are going to see a Terra from Giovanni's side. I'm guessing this is Golden Go. I'd be very surprised actually if it's not Golden Go. Yep. There's just nothing there that I think... Ogerpon, as much as you would have survived the Sludge Bomb, Golden Go needs that damage. But we are going to go ahead and see Ogerpon go for Follow Me. That's kind of big, because it was a suspected Follow Me there. And Substitute is coming out from Landorus. I do think, I don't exactly know what the Amoonguss wants to do here. Maybe Colin Pup is a solid play. That's what I think Substitute is really cute. But yeah, Make It Rain, Terra, Steel. Amoonguss survives it with 11 HP. Very close, but allows Amoonguss to do whatever it needs to. And Landorus' Substitute is gone though, but it did survive the hit. And it goes for a Spore, expecting a switch in, but it does not happen. So I think right now it's a very good switch in really for Junxi if you just want to switch into anything. You can basically get a free Sludge Bomb onto Ogerpon or Earth Power into Golden Go, but it's a 50-50 call. Is it going to go for the Follow Me again? Is it going to go for a stay in and Make It Rain? Is it going to switch out to try and remove the -1? I personally think we're going to see a Protect and a Make It Rain. Or Spiky Shield and Make It Rain, but it's a 50-50 call. It's all about reading your opponent. What is Giovanni thinking over there? And is the Spiky Shield going to happen on Ogerpon or not? I personally think it will, but it's one of those things you don't get context clues in this case. You have to just go off of your gut. And we're going to see Amoonguss switch out. Going to get some Regenerator boost, which is very useful, especially for Amoonguss, because it just wants to stay on the field and put things to sleep. Urshifu coming out, and this is Rapid Strike, so it's going to resist any potential. Oh, that was a really good switch in because that Ivy Cudgel is not going to do a lot onto that Urshifu, and the Earth Power is going to connect with the Amoonguss, or sorry, and with the Golden Go and get rid of it. Okay, so no Spiky Shield, but it was an Ivy Cudgel onto an Urshifu. Not great. This is what I was saying. It does the Ogerpon. It was a really good choice there to bring in because of the Urshifu, but there's one really interesting spot here. That's U-turn. I think we're going to see a U-turn or close combat potential, but I think U-turn, at this point, you just kind of double up. I would U-turn plus Sludge Bomb onto the Urshifu, or maybe close combat plus Sludge Bomb onto the Urshifu. There's so many different choices you can make. I think probably U-turn and then Sludge Bomb the Ogerpon. I think that's what I would do as far as Junxi. If you're Geo right now, you're thinking this Ogerpon is really scared because it's probably going to go for a U-turn. I would probably switch it out to Incineroar while keeping Urshifu in and going for a Wicked Blow onto Landorus. I don't think Landorus can get rid of Urshifu right now. I think if you go for an Incineroar, you're in a safer spot because there's a good chance that the Earth Power will not connect with the Ogerpon. But we're just going to see a Sucker Punch come out from Urshifu. Not going to really do that much. However, we did notice in the last match that this Ogerpon is faster. And so that's very important to know because Ivy Cudgel is most likely coming onto the Landorus and we'll get rid of it. But it does allow Incineroar to come in and intimidate. So maybe it's at about 50%. I still think it's going to KO, but this is pretty important here because you do now neutralize this Urshifu's Sucker Punches and close combats. And he broke its Focus Sash with the U-turn, which is very, very useful. Ivy Cudgel going to connect, does connect with the Landorus. Landorus takes it with 12 HP and gets the Sludge Bomb off. That is huge. Sludge Bomb does connect with the Urshifu, but it's enough to get rid of it anyways. And that was big. That Intimidate on Junxi was huge. And I think it just shows you the power of Intimidate in this game. It is the most important ability right now. It has always been the most important ability, but it just showed exactly why. That was a wonderful play. And you just, right now, you think you just protect Landorus and you can really switch into anything. There's so many different options here. 4-on-2 is just brutal position to be in if you're Geo. And especially right now, having Incineroar is really good. But the hard part is you really have the Landorus on the field still, which can Sludge Bomb and Earth Power, and I don't know how that's going to go. But yeah, I think the switch out on Lando is actually a not bad choice right there. You do have Urshifu coming out, and there's a good chance that the Ivy Cudgel or Flare Blitz would go onto that slot. Fake out, gonna fake out the opposing Incineroar. Once again, Junxi's Incineroar going first, so that does not happen. Ivy Cudgel going to connect. It's -1, so it is gonna do just less than 75%. It's a knockout on the next turn, but it's not quite a knockout. I think the smart play right now is for Junxi to just go ahead and just swap on out. You could Flare Blitz the Ogerpon. I think that's fine. U-turn is also a decent choice for Ogerpon. You could close combat it as well. There's a couple options. Right now, you just want to really focus on the Ogerpon. And if you U-turn out and get rid of the Ogerpon, then you're fine. And having the ability that Urshifu has, which is Unseen Fist, you're able to just get rid of any spiky shield risk. And that's huge because U-turn still, if I'm not mistaken, does about 50%. So you're going to just go into Amoonguss, keep U-turning out until your Landorus comes back in to deal with the Incineroar. And so you know, you really just want to get rid of that Ogerpon. There's that. Yeah, I actually did about 60%. We're going to see that switch out. I think a very safe switch in right now would be that Amoonguss. That would just be very, very useful, especially with that Rocky Helmet damage in the back. There is a good chance that you will see this. There's the Woodhammer. Yeah, it's Woodhammer actually onto Amoonguss. I thought it was going to be Ivy Cudgel onto the Incineroar. So good call there. I on the switch out for Junxi instead of going for the close combat, but Parting Shot is just going to cycle back, and this is a very, very useful cycle, because not only are you going to get your Intimidate back out on both of these Pokemon, but you're probably able to bring out your Urshifu right now, and that's just going to reset your Scarf. So you could go into Landorus, but I think Urshifu is a safer bet. I just do. Because your Scarf, you can U-turn. There's really nothing that Giovanni can do here. You just go in, you U-turn out onto the Ogerpon, put the Incineroar to sleep. I believe okay, maybe not put the Incineroar to sleep, because I believe we haven't seen its oh no, we saw the Terra Steel Golden Go. Yeah, you just put Incineroar to sleep. You turn out on Ogerpon, go back into your Incineroar, or you can just cycle it out, but go for Pollen Puff. I think you turn the Incineroar or the Ogerpon. I just don't see any reason that that's a bad play. Then you can go right back into your own Incineroar and Intimidate. Like, there's really nothing stopping you from that. I don't know. Unless there's something that Junxi's scared about, maybe keeping the close combat, but that's not. I think you just U-turn out. You know you're fastest, and Ogerpon can't do anything, and then you support Incineroar. But they may, if that doesn't happen, I'm very confused on what Junxi's doing. Oh, Junxi, I hope you know what you're doing here. Junxi's an amazing player and has already punched his ticket to World, so I know he knows what he's doing. But a little scary there, because there's a good chance that both of these Pokemon could go down if the plays are read correctly. If an Ivy Cudgel goes on the Landorus, And a Flare Blitz goes onto the Amoonguss. Okay, well, it's a switch out into Incineroar. That's fine. That's totally fine. Putting Fake Out Pressure is very useful there. And so sacrificing Incineroar is totally fine to make sure you get your Surging Strikes out for later. That's a very, very safe play, and good big brain play there from Junxi. The Wood Hammer going to connect with the Landorus, so sacrificing the Landorus there. Yeah, that's fine. You don't really need the Landorus out at the moment. Yeah, I thought the end game here was to go for the Earth Power, but Junxi was like, yeah, no, I think Surging Strikes is safer. And we are going to see Incineroar go for Flood Blitz on the opposing Incineroar. Don't forget, it is intimidated. It does not much. And so, at this point, I think Junxi's pretty safe to just go into Urshifu again. You turn out, you fake out the opposing Incineroar, you turn out onto the Ogre Pond if you're Junxi, and then you just go into Amoonguss, Surging Strikes. Yeah. Once the time comes, you get close combat right now too. If they got Incineroar, okay, then there's a forfeit, so it didn't even matter. There's so many options there for Junxi to just take that match that I was like, you can just pick your favorite. But it just showed how much command that Junxi had over that match. I mean, that is the team to beat right now. So many options. And I was saying that there were so many options when we were looking at the team preview, because you have Amoonguss, you have Golden Go, you have Incineroar for Intimidate, you have Porygon 2 for Trick Room, you have Landorus and Choice Scarf Urshifu for Fast Mode. You don't know what the lead's going to be. And that is exactly why Junxi was able to come on in and just absolutely dominate that second match, especially. But Giovanni played an amazing game as well. Obviously, top 4 is fantastic. He's a known fantastic player, and his team has won these tournaments before. He's been doing very well. We'll see both of these players in the World Championships later this year, so make sure you watch out for them and root for them, because we always have an amazing community in SoCal that just loves and supports each other, and we want to keep that going all the way to the World Championships. But congratulations to both players on making it this far. We'll see Junxi here back in a moment for the finals, and he will either be facing Brian or Len. That match hasn't finished yet. Stay tuned for that.